Irma Grese's name remains synonymous with the horrors of the Holocaust. Once an unremarkable farm girl from Germany, she ascended to infamy as one of the most ruthless figures in Nazi concentration camps. Dubbed the Hyena of Auschwitz, her acts of cruelty shocked survivors, fellow guards, and even historians. But how did someone from humble beginnings become a key player in one of history's darkest chapters? This is the chilling story of Irma Grese, a tale of transformation, brutality, and the enduring lessons of history. Born on October 7, 1923 in Recken, Germany, Irma Ilse Ida Grese grew up in a rural farming community. Her father, a dairy worker, ran a strict household, and her upbringing was unremarkable but marred by hardship. When Irma was just 13, her mother took her own life after discovering her husband's infidelity. This tragic event left a lasting scar on young Irma and marked a turning point in her life. In her teenage years, Grese became increasingly drawn to the Nazi Party, whose ideology was seeping into every aspect of German society. She dropped out of school at 15 and tried working at various jobs, including as a nurse's assistant, but struggled to find direction. By this point, Germany was entrenched in World War II, and propaganda glorifying loyalty to the Führer and the Nazi vision of Aryan supremacy captivated her. Irma's fascination with the regime turned into full-fledged commitment when she joined the League of German Girls, a Nazi youth organization for women. This exposure to the party's indoctrination laid the foundation for her future as one of its most notorious operatives. In 1942, at the age of 18, Irma Grese made the fateful decision to apply for a position as a concentration camp guard. Her choice reflected a complete alignment with Nazi ideology, rejecting not only societal norms, but also her family's values. This decision created a permanent rift with her father, a staunch opponent of the Nazi regime, who was horrified by her ambition to join the SS. Despite his protests and the severing of familial ties, Grese remained resolute in her path, demonstrating an early willingness to forsake personal relationships for what she believed to be a higher cause. Grese began her training at Ravensbrück, a concentration camp for women that also served as a training ground for female SS guards. The camp was notorious for its harsh conditions and inhumane treatment of prisoners, and it was here that Grese first encountered the environment of brutality that would come to define her later actions. Under the guidance of seasoned guards, she absorbed the ethos of the SS, internalizing the dehumanization of prisoners and embracing her role in the Nazi apparatus of terror. Ravensbrück was not just a training ground for practical skills, but also for the psychological desensitization necessary to perform the atrocities demanded by the regime. In 1943, Irma Grese was transferred to Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest and deadliest of the Nazi concentration and extermination camps. At just 20 years old, she rose rapidly through the ranks, achieving the position of senior SS supervisor. This role placed her in charge of thousands of female prisoners, granting her a disturbing amount of authority and control. Grese wielded this power with an alarming combination of sadism and precision, earning her a reputation as one of the most feared and brutal overseers at Auschwitz. The Hyena of Auschwitz. A reign of terror. Grese's conduct at Auschwitz was nothing short of monstrous. Survivors described her as cold, sadistic, and utterly devoid of empathy. Despite her youth and striking appearance, she was known for her blonde hair and polished demeanor. Her actions made her one of the most feared figures in the camp. One of her most infamous tools of terror was her whip, which she used mercilessly on prisoners. She also carried a pistol, not hesitating to use it to intimidate or harm those under her control. Grese was often seen orchestrating brutal beatings and was known to unleash trained dogs on prisoners for sport. Perhaps most chilling was her involvement in the selection process for the gas chambers. She determined who would live and who would die, reportedly taking a perverse pleasure in the power she held over life and death. Witnesses testified that she showed no remorse, often smiling during these harrowing moments. Her cruelty earned her the nickname Hyena of Auschwitz, a moniker that reflected her predatory nature. In January 1945, as Soviet forces advanced on Auschwitz, Grese was transferred to Bergen-Belsen. Though smaller in scale, Bergen-Belsen was no less horrific, and Grese continued her reign of terror. However, the end of the war was nearing, and the Nazi regime was crumbling. In April 1945, British forces liberated Bergen-Belsen, discovering unspeakable conditions. Grese was among the SS personnel captured. At the time of her arrest, she was just 21 years old, yet her crimes had already left an indelible mark on history. The Belsen Trials. Facing justice. Irma Grese stood trial at the Belsen Trials, one of the first war crime tribunals held after World War II. Charged with crimes against humanity, including murder, torture, and abuse, she faced overwhelming evidence from survivors who testified to her sadistic actions. Throughout the trial, Grese displayed an unnerving lack of emotion. She maintained her innocence, claiming she had merely followed orders. However, her defense was insufficient to counter the damning testimonies of those who had suffered under her rule. In November 1945, Grese was found guilty and sentenced to death. She was executed by hanging on December 13, 1945. At 22 years old, she was one of the youngest women executed for war crimes in the 20th century. Irma Grese's story remains one of the most unsettling and thought-provoking aspects of Holocaust history, forcing us to confront deep questions about human nature, morality, and the potential for evil. How did an ordinary farm girl, raised in a quiet German village, evolve into a symbol of inhumanity and brutality? Was she merely a product of the pervasive Nazi indoctrination that dehumanized millions and glorified cruelty? Or did she consciously embrace sadism and power as personal choices? Grese's case also brings to light the significant, yet often overlooked role of women in the machinery of the Holocaust. While history frequently emphasizes the atrocities of male figures like Adolf Eichmann and Heinrich Himmler, women such as Grese actively contributed to the terror. Her actions challenged the conventional narrative of women as passive bystanders in wartime atrocities, revealing that they could be just as ruthless and complicit in implementing systemic evil. Irma Grese shattered societal stereotypes about women as nurturers or peacekeepers. Her calculated acts of violence, choosing who would live or die, orchestrating brutal punishments, and deriving pleasure from others' suffering, underscore the disturbing reality that evil transcends gender. Her story is a chilling reminder that cruelty and oppression are not confined to one sex or a single type of person, but can emerge from anyone given the right or wrong circumstances. Moreover, Grese's rise within the Nazi ranks highlights how deeply indoctrination can transform individuals. Nazi propaganda painted enemies of the regime as subhuman, and this messaging, repeated from childhood, undoubtedly shaped her worldview. Yet, the question lingers. Was her cruelty driven solely by ideology, or was it a manifestation of something far darker within her own psyche? Ultimately, Irma Grese's story forces us to grapple with uncomfortable truths about the nature of power, the influence of radicalization, and the capacity for ordinary people to commit extraordinary evil. Cultural depictions and continued fascination. Over the years, Irma Grese's life has been the subject of books, documentaries, and films. These portrayals often grapple with the dichotomy of her youth and beauty against her inhuman actions. Some works attempt to understand her motivations, while others focus solely on the horror she inflicted. However, her story is also a stark reminder of the dangers of radicalization and the dehumanization of others. It serves as a cautionary tale about what can happen when ideology and power erase empathy and morality. Irma Grese's transformation from a farm girl to one of history's most feared figures is both tragic and horrifying. Her actions at Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen remain a grim testament to the depths of human cruelty. What lessons can we learn from Irma Grese's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most complex and chilling figures.